Welcome to the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. I'm your host, Wendie V, and in season 3, we're redefining success for social entrepreneurs looking to grow their revenue. If you have reality-changing ideas, this is the place for you. Let's jump right into today's episode. Welcome to this episode of the Social Impact Level Up podcast. This is where we blur the lines between business, nonprofit, and impact. I'm your host, Wendie V. Today, we're going over the 5 M's of how to monetize yourself. I have a really simple framework to get you started, and I want you guys to know that if you stay through the whole thing, if you comment ready on any of the lives, I will make sure that you get this framework in your inbox. So go ahead and reach out to me. Now, here is the deal. As you remove the golden handcuffs, if you are a Fed, if you are someone who is working in corporate and you think, oh, I want to go out on my own, there are at least these 5 things I'm going to tell you that you need to do to make sure that you can be successful. And I talk about sustainability because, like I said, I don't want you to go back to an environment that wasn't for you. So if you're leaving federal service, if you're leaving an unhealthy corporate opportunity that's not allowing you to thrive, the last thing you want to do is to go back. If you're looking to explore entrepreneurship, the last thing you want to do is feel like you're failing at starting your own business and then go back to that job, right? So this is why we're going over this framework, the 5 M's. The first M, if you're writing this down, is manage big emotions. All the time, as people, we have emotions throughout the day. This is how we roll, right? But if you cannot manage your emotions, if you cannot self-regulate, if you cannot make sure that people are not triggering you throughout the day as you do your work, then you will not be able to manage yourself as an entrepreneur because there are going to be clients who push your buttons. There is going to be competition in your niche. There are going to be people who come in different ways into your life, and you need to manage your emotions through those situations. So you can't constantly be in a place of hyper arousal or being triggered, right? You have to be someone who can manage and regulate your own emotions. As an entrepreneur, we go through so many mental highs and lows. I can tell you every entrepreneur that I know has had a mental health journey simultaneously to their entrepreneurship journey, or a spiritual journey simultaneous to their entrepreneurship journey, because we need to learn how to and know how to manage emotions and regulate fast all the time, right? If you're in a business situation, in a networking situation, and someone triggers you, you need to know how to get back on your A game and get back to selling your business. So the first part of your journey is to check in with yourself in your mental space. For some of you guys who don't know me and you haven't listened to my podcast, you may not know this, but I not only was under the Trump administration the first time and suffered a whole bunch of bullying and a whole bunch of things. You can see that in another episode. But I also lost my job at the federal county level a couple of years later after COVID, right? So I experienced multiple traumas in multiple government environments. And when I had the opportunity to go out on my own, I took it. I instantly said, this is no longer for me. I don't want to work on somebody else's terms. I don't want to work on someone else's mission. I want to do things not only my way, but I also want to do them with my value set, right? The way that I think is the right way to do this. But I couldn't get to that realization if I was always being triggered, if I was depressed and sad about losing my job, right? If I wasn't able to mentally pick myself up and frame a business after having had a reduction in force, is actually what happened to me after suffering through a reduction in force, there would have been no business, right? Like I wouldn't have had the mental space to keep going. So the first thing you have to do is manage big emotions. As the emotions come up throughout the day and throughout your journey, you need to know how to keep going so that you can continue on this path of entrepreneurship. If you're looking for grant funding and don't know where to start, let me introduce you to the secret that even grant writers don't know. Idea to Impact, the grant writing course that makes it easy to learn everything from A to Z about grant writing in plain English with on-demand half-hour modules and go at your own pace workbooks. This course is unlike any other because it delivers insider tips from a grant reviewer and grant creator, me. I've awarded over $35 million in grants throughout my career, and I give you access to all of the resources and knowledge that you need to apply for millions of dollars on your own. No grant writer needed. Sign up today at wendieveloz.com/grants. So let's get back to the second M, right? So the second M is to manage your mindset and your money. Money management and money mindset go hand in hand with entrepreneurship. If you were not already thinking about your day to day in a way of having a budget, understanding how much you need to spend in order to make more money, these are basic concepts of entrepreneurship that you have to get yourself out of the mentality of getting a paycheck every 2 weeks and bring yourself into the mentality of, I need to put out energy to get energy in. Money is energy in, energy out. So as you do your work, as you monetize yourself, as you understand how your skills can be monetized, you then will find that people will be willing to pay you money. And it'll be the weirdest thing in the world at first because you're not used to or accustomed to making money in this way, right? You're probably not the kind of person who was already starting businesses on the side or side hustles or things like that. Or even if you had a side hustle, you maybe weren't putting enough energy there to scale it, right? So when you change your money mindset, going from a paycheck every 2 weeks, especially if you were fed and you had this massive amount of money coming in all the time, right, every 2 weeks, then you were already probably not used to this up and down of your money. And you might not have been used to expending energy in certain ways in order to make money, because what tends to happen is that money will just come in no matter what energy you spend, right? So people will ask you to spend more energy and spend more energy at your work or at your job, you will still get paid the same amount. But as an entrepreneur, when you spend more energy in certain places, then you will see that more money will come in. So it's a different flow of energy and money than you're probably used to if you were in a federal role or if you were in corporate. So as you move over, then you also have to move your lifestyle over to matching the way your money is coming in. So as you monetize yourself, if you say bill all your clients at the end of the month, then that means you're only getting paid once a month, right? So you have to build your business to know what are these ebbs and flows and how can you continually bring money in the door. The third M, if you've been hanging out with me on this episode of the podcast, is to monetize yourself, right? So how do you actually monetize you? Well, it's all about your skill sets. Sometimes we have these very broad transferable skill sets that, especially if we are in the federal government, you can do everything from contracting to grants, policy making. There's lots of different types of skill sets that people have or that you acquire through the roles that you take on over the years. I have acquired numerous skill sets as a former Fed. I can do everything from create a budget in my sleep to manage a project today in the field, right? Like I could do a whole bunch of different things. But every one of us still has skills that are unique to our journey, our education, the books we read, the things that we did. I also lived in a village in Uganda. Like there's so many things in my life that make me have unique experience that only is made up of the things that I happen to have encountered or done. So all of us can monetize ourselves, but it starts with you knowing you. It starts with you understanding what are your transferable skills, what are the specific skills you have in your niche, what are the skills that you can actually consult or sell right away, and how do you get those skills out onto the market, right? What is the shortest path of go to market? And sometimes the shortest path is you understanding yourself. Because this was exactly where I was when I started this business. I walked out the door of my government job. I jumped in my car. I called my mentor. We'll talk about that in a minute. And I had to spend 6 months figuring out what the heck I did, right? What do I do better than anybody else? What do I do that people ask me about? What do I do that people ask for favors about all the time, right? These were the questions I had to grapple with for months and through a lot of coaching sessions in order to understand specifically what should I put out to the world to tell them that I sell as a business. And it wasn't about me creating a menu like McDonald's, right? Like, let me just go say I do strategy and I do this and I do that. It was really about what is the brand that I'm creating? What am I marketing? How am I telling people that I do this work? How can I stand behind the statement? If you pay me millions of dollars, if you pay me thousands of dollars, I will be capable and competent of doing XYZ things. Like, what are those things? And for each of us, those are different things. So you need to understand yourself just as much as I needed to understand myself. And as we walk through the entrepreneurship journey, sometimes the things that we want to do and the things that we can do or we get to do are different lists, right? Totally different things. We might be excited about doing something, but feel like it doesn't fit in our schedule. But if you have freedom of time, you have to ask yourself, why can't I only focus on the things that I like to do, right? So as you move from being a fed to being out on your own, there's sort of two pieces of work that work to say, what is it that I'm competent and capable of doing to monetize my skills? And what do I actually want to spend my time on? Like, I don't want to be moving from a job that I hated and spending hours of work in this office that you made me come to, sit in traffic for 2 hours each way. I don't want to do any of that anymore, right? Like, maybe I don't want to work in an office. Maybe I want to stay here in my home office for 5 years. Like, that's totally fine. But you have to make the decision. You have to make the choice. You have to understand. So you need to know what you like to do, not what you want to do, but what do you like actually find joy in, right? I might want to go make a pie right now. Do I find joy in it? No, I just want to eat the pie. But I do find joy in spending time with my dog, right? So I make my schedule so that I have that time to spend with her because it brings me joy. It fuels me to come back and do these lives and do this other work. So I had to retool my thinking of my day, my entire day. And I did this in a couple different ways. I'll give you guys a really good tip. If you've never done a time study before, if this is something that you've never heard of, I have a blog post on wendieveloz.com. Head over there and go see. There's three blog series on doing a time study. It tells you exactly how to reformat your life, reformat your time, use it the way you want. If you're a former Fed and now you have the choice to not have to make certain decisions in order to make your money, you need to know where your time is going. And a time study is your very, very first start. So that's what I would advise for figuring out how you can do the third M, which the third M, again, is monetizing yourself. Let's go to the fourth M in this framework, make your brand. I already talked about branding just a tad, but I want to hit home on this idea of having a personal brand. If you were working in a federal job or you were working in a corporation, you had the ability before to hide behind the brand that you were employed by. When you go out on your own, you have to think of and create a brand for you, a brand that is something that you want to stand behind, that you love, that you can choose the look and feel and the values of. And those decisions have to come from you and your personal preferences. You can have coaches and mentors who help you shortcut this thing. Like that's our fifth M. But in the end, your brand is your choice, your decision. So don't let a designer tell you your brand colors have to be these blues or these things or whatever, your font has to be this. You can go work with another designer and design a different brand, right? It's all about your preferences and you knowing how you want to feel and look in the world, right? What presentation do you want to put out? When I worked for the federal government, a lot of people knew me as the representative of that agency, right? My name was synonymous with that agency. Now, as a business, my name is synonymous with my business. So that means if anything that I do on the personal side, like, right, say I happen to get arrested or something like that, that is going to absolutely affect my brand and my business, right? Those two things now are joined at the hip. They're one and the same. I chose to do it that way because of who I am and the type of business that I'm building. Other people very specifically choose to build a brand that they can hide behind and stand behind, right? Because then you can have that anonymity in your personal life to do whatever it is that you want and still sell that brand to someone else, right? You can still sell a brand that's a personal brand. It just looks different. But you have to make the choice. What are you creating? Are you creating a personal brand? Are you creating a blog? Are you coming as a personal photographer who's, you are the brand? Or are you going to create a brand that you can scale and have a lot of people and teams working under? So, there's a lot of thought processes here when you think about creating your brand. And if you've not done any branding exercises before, if this is not how you normally roll, if you're not in the marketing part of the government agencies, then it might seem overwhelming, right? Like, where do you start? How do you even figure this out, right? A lot of it is about preference, right? Personal choice, you asking other people, asking for help out and understanding the choices that you have, and then deciding which ones fit long-term with your objectives and your goals, right? So my objectives and goals is to sell my intellectual property. So I always actually want to be synonymous with this intellectual property. I don't want people to not know who created this IP. I want people to know who created the IP. So I've built my brand in a very specific way. But you might have a totally different product, a totally different specialty that you're coming to the market with, and you might decide to build a different brand, and that's absolutely okay. We all have the choices that we have when it comes to starting a business, right? So how do you put the foundations together? And the brand is one of the big foundations. Brand color, brand feel, the font, your website, your URL, your name of your business, all of those things have to come together to form the brand, including what you register with your state and the federal government, right? So what are you actually calling yourself? Do you have a trade name? Do you go by the name of your actual business? There's so many choices that you have to make. I know it can be overwhelming to think about all that at once. You don't have to bite it all off at the same time. And the last tip I'm going to give, which is the end of the 5Ms framework that we're talking about today in this episode, is mentorship. Get a mentor, get a business mentor, get a business bestie, get a business coach. There are free business coaching resources out the wazoo in every community in this country. I promise. There are ones online. There are incubators you can apply to. There are grants you can apply to that will come with business mentoring. There are so many different ways for you to learn from other people's journeys to speed up the process for yourself. It does not have to take you 6 months for you to figure out what services you provide. You can work with someone like me. We'll coach you through the process. You'll get it done in much quicker amount of time, right? Because once you know the process and once you're able to work through the process, you can do it for yourself over and over again. And that is how you build a sustainable brand. Being able to have the capacity or having the capacity to hire someone for their expertise to do that for you, whether that's an internal or an external hire. So as you build your business, as you scale your business, as you move from being a federal employee to an actual CEO, right? So moving from Fed to CEO, you have a lot of choices to make. And having a sounding board, having somebody there with you who can walk through the journey, who can tell you what their experience is immensely valuable. As I mentioned before, I spent about $7,000 in coaching to have an amazing, amazing coach before I even lost my job or knew I was going to be leaving government service. That was an investment I made for me because I wanted to build my side business as I was in service. Lo and behold, the day that I lost my job, I needed that mentor and that coach. It was the first call I made, right? Absolute first call I made. Why? Because I knew that I had freedom of time, but I didn't know how to use it. I wasn't going to be strategic with how I used my time. And what she was able to do for me was give me a series of exercises. And the exercises walked me through the critical choices, right? Those choices that I mentioned. What do we actually need to do to find value in our business to be able to sell and monetize our skills, right? So that's why when you work with the coach, the investment is not only the investment of the money, but it's also the investment of the time that you're going to do the work. I would not still be in business 4 years later if I hadn't done my homework when I was working with my coach, right? And if I hadn't listened and changed some of the things that I was told to change, I wouldn't have been able to progress the way that I was able to progress. It still was a very slow progress. Let me tell y'all, I've been building this business for a while, doing all kinds of different things. But when I started, I didn't have a podcast. Now I'm over 100 episodes into this podcast. I didn't have, guests emailing me all the time. Nobody knew who I was. I get nightly, daily, invites to interview different people. And I built my network of in-person businesses that are going to refer to me for the last 3 years through my Chamber of Commerce, right? So I've made some strategic choices about where to spend my time and my energy. And this is exactly what I want to make sure that everybody can do. Everybody who is needing to monetize yourselves. So you need to make the choices of how you spend your time. And when you're spending your time on certain things, we need you to be doing the most effective things possible. Right. Don't spend your time on things that are not going to move you forward towards your goal. So if your goal is growing a business or a nonprofit after you have left federal service, after you had a reduction in force, or whatever career transition you are going through right now,
how you spend your time is asset. Time is your number one asset. Time is how you make money. Energy and how you use your time is how it will come back to you in the form of money. All of these M's that we talked about today are related, right? It's not something I just threw on a piece of paper. These are all co-related things. So as we build these brands, as we build these businesses, how you use your time and energy is the thing that you have complete control over. So the homework from today's session, for those of you guys who are watching live, or if you are listening to this podcast and you're thinking, okay, I'm getting ready to do this, go through the 5 M's and ask yourself these questions, right? These are critical questions I want you to ask yourself. So, am I managing my emotions in a way that allow me to ebb and flow with success and to be stable for business, right? Am I doing this? Do I have the right money mindset or the tools to change my money mindset to be successful in business? Do I know how to monetize myself? Have I made a brand for myself already? And what does it look like? Or do I need to make a brand for myself from scratch? And where can I look for or find a mentor who can help me with this journey? Those are the questions I want you to ask yourself. I want you to make sure that this is, something that you can do. You can do, right? You know that you have confidence in you, and that there is a way for you to take the next step. So if you need to take the next step, please reach out to me. Please reach out to another coach. Get with somebody who will help you on this journey. The investment is worth it. I know when you're taking off the golden handcuffs, it is immensely scary to invest in anything because you don't know where your next paycheck is coming from. When you work with somebody who can help you sort through these questions, that anxiety falls away and you will feel more confident at how you're going to make your next paycheck yourself. All right. So cheers, everyone, to paying yourself. And thank you for joining me for this episode of the Social Impact Level podcast.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. I hope you enjoyed the conversation, and we look forward to having you come back. If you're curious about what we shared, make sure you check down in the show notes below. And if you're ready to grow your revenue, I have a little gift for you. Download my Revenue for Impact guidebook at wendieveloz.com/guide. Until the next episode.